Brooklyn Independent Television.
Well, the Brooklyn Cyclones are in their 12th season, and it's opening day. It's opening month for the Brooklyn Cyclones here at Municipal Stadium here in Coney Island. And joining me is Ed Shakespeare and Elio Velez. So, Elio, your thoughts about this new season so far for the Brooklyn Cyclones?
Well, it's another season for the Cyclones, and this will be the youngest team that the Cyclones will be bringing up. A couple years ago, Sandy Alderson, the general manager, and Paul DePodesta and those guys drafted some players from their philosophy, which was get younger, especially in the middle position, center field, and get younger, get 5'2" guys, get guys who can move up the system fast. So this year, they brought up Brandon Nemo, their first-round pick from last year, from Montana, 19 years old, and he's going to do a little bit of everything in center field. They're looking at this guy to be rising up the organization fast, and they bring up another bunch of guys who they drafted this year. Like the first 5 of the 10-round picks are going to be here.
So what are your thoughts about last season? How did they do last year?
I think Rich Donnelly, manager, is coming back for this year, did a really good job molding this team. As always, you have new guys, high school guys, college guys, a mix of guys coming in and out, and he did a really good job. He's very experienced. He's had 35 years plus in the minors in the major leagues. You know, he's been with Florida Marlins, world champion, so he's had a really good knowledge of the game. Tells the guys straight out what they got to do, be focused, be on time, be prepared to play the game. And the Cyclones like that because they got to the playoffs last year. They lost to Staten Island in 3 games. So he's going to come back. He's going to bring a whole world of experience.
When you look at the Penn League overall, you have the Staten Island Yankees, you have the team in Albany, you have the team in Vermont.
You know, Staten Island, you got to look at it, especially that's their cross-town rivals, their cross-border rivals, and they always do a good job of bringing guys in, winning every year. Last year they won the championship. So this is a team that every year seems to put out a quality product. You have other teams as well. Vermont did pretty well last year. You know, you got the teams in Jersey, whatever. So you're going to see those teams usually rise, but usually it could be Brooklyn, Staten Island will lead the pack.
All right, now on a somber note, hopefully, we also have to close it out on a somber note, and we got to talk about Warner Fuselle. Your thoughts about Warner?
Well, Warner was with the Cyclones from the very first game they played up in Jamestown, New York in 2001. And the Cyclones and their fans were so lucky to get a top major league caliber announcer for the team all these years. And sometimes they couldn't pick up the signal, but then now with the internet they can, and they could pick them up and so forth. So I think he was such a hard worker and a perfectionist, at the same time a wonderful person with that perfectionism. And he loved doing the Cyclones games.
He's a very detailed announcer too, right, Elio? He really also had all types of names for you.
Absolutely. I mean, Ed Shakespeare, he called him the Bard on the radio. I was called the Non-Wretched because I did nothing wrong in his eyes. So, so we were both trying to at least make his experience doing the radio a better chance. Don't let people interrupt and everything. But he was such a hard-working guy, a very nice man. I mean, very knowledgeable about the game. You can see him till here 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, updating his stats, doing it by hand, no computers at all.
And he's a very detailed worker too.
Oh yeah, people would say, "Oh, why do you have to do all that by hand?" But yet, when we got in a tough spot, Warner had all the information. He knew how many home runs were hit to right field. Even he had I wrote a book about the Cyclones the first year, and Warner, I couldn't have done it without Warner. Warner had every pitch recorded and notes in red, and he let me use that detailed scorebook, which is the most detailed I've ever seen, and all tapes and everything. And he was very generous that way. But everybody would say, "Oh, why are you doing all that record keeping and everything?" But then everyone would say, "Warner, what about this?" And he'd have all the stuff, plus everything he had in his head.
Like walking basically encyclopedia.
Yeah, absolutely. You can just ask him about anything and everything. When you ask him about what did the Cyclones do last week with the bases loaded and nobody out, he would tell you that. And he would be so forthcoming with that. And we're going to really miss Warner and his knowledge and what he's brought to the game. He worked for This Week in Baseball. He did St. John's Baseball just the last few months before he passed away. So we're going to miss him.
Well, speaking of Warner, I had the privilege and honor to interview him last year, and I spoke to him about his career and the Brooklyn Cyclones. Let's take a look.
Well, I'm kind of like Rich Donnelly in that, I started out in the minor leagues, and I was with him in it's kind of like what the South Atlantic League is now, where Brooklyn or the Mets have a team in Savannah, And Rich Donnelly managed in Greenville, South Carolina, and I was in Spartanburg, South Carolina, a Phillies team, and we got to know each other there. And then I went on to do TV stuff in New York, and Rich Donnelly got to the major leagues and was with 5 teams in the major leagues. But we love baseball, and this is my favorite thing to do. The TV was great, and the notoriety was great, and I got to do a lot of things that were a lot of fun. But I really do miss this, the day-to-day grind, and being with the team is great. Now, it's not always great when you're in the middle of the night on the way to Mahoning Valley, which is 500 miles away. But, you know, I enjoy it. I think it's good. And to see Rich Donnelly this year and Frank Viola here this year and to meet new people, you know, I like it. I look forward to it. I have to do a lot of work, and I do it all by hand, too. I'm a dinosaur with the computers and all. I don't know how to do that stuff. If I need something off the computer or internet, I'll get one of the interns or somebody to help me get that stuff. But I do all my statistics and all my paperwork and all my research by hand, and you do it every day. And I just say, when the season starts, don't try to do anything else. Don't plan on going to a movie once a month or go out to eat or something like that. You can't. You just got to work nonstop all the time to be ready each day, because, you know, the major leagues might have 25 off days and we get about 3. So it goes fast and it's great, but you just got to bear down, and then when it's over, then you can go to a movie or you can eat a meal or do whatever. Last year was a great year, and I think if Brooklyn had won that last playoff series against Tri-City, which it did not, that would be considered to be the greatest team ever here. But since that team lost, I think maybe you have to go back to the first year, because people forget all the great things that happened. But last year's team was great, and it was the best hitting team ever here, and I hope there's something here this year too. But last year was tremendous. Overall, it seems every year it's a pitcher's league. You have these good college pitchers, and you know, it's tough to hit in this league. Last year, Brooklyn hit 284 or something and hit 300 most of the year. That was very unusual, because you can have a good team and hit 240. So last year there were some great hitters, but usually it's a pitcher's league. That could change this year, and I expect it to be another league.
Hey, right there, right there, right there.
I think it's very competitive. You know, there are 14 teams, so it's hard to keep up with everybody. I mean, I found out, you know, years after you see somebody, for example, the first year Brooklyn was in the league, Batavia, you didn't play Batavia till like the last week of the season, and I found out later, I didn't even notice at the time, that their first baseman, who struck out 8 out of 9 times against Brooklyn and made 3 errors in 1 game, that he was a star in the big leagues playing for the Phillies, Ryan Howard. Now, he had 5 home runs in this league. He had 50-some in the major leagues. Jose Bautista played for Williamsport the first year. He's leading the major leagues in home runs right now. He had like 5 at Williamsport. He had 53 last year. And you never know. So you got to keep your eyes open. And when some of these teams, you only play 3 times. You know, you play Staten Island 14, so you get to know those guys. And Aberdeen and Hudson Valley, you play 10. But the other teams, you play so few times, it's kind of hard. And, you know, there's a change of players from time to time, so they might have a great player and you might never see him. But I think overall the talent's really good and the pitching is great. It's exceeded expectations for me. I've been in a lot of leagues, and I think this is a real good league, solid league.
Watch this and other Brooklyn Independent Television episodes online at brickartsmedia.org/BIT.